Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we start, I would like to draw your attention to what I can offer you as a master coach. I can help you to focus on your why with clarity, uniting your passion with your purpose with a plan to create the life you truly desire. Book a free 20-minute coaching call right now via calendly.com/Amy Rowlandson/call, and we can take it from there. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by QJ. Welcome.
Hi, Amy.
And where are you joining us from, QJ?
I'm in the middle of a field. Actually, that's a lie. I'm in the middle of two fields in a little cottage that grew into a house. And it's in rural Kent in the UK.
Sounds idyllic.
Yeah, I love it. And I don't really ever want to move, although there are differences of opinion within the household. So we'll see what happens.
Brilliant. And what is it you're focusing on at the moment, QJ?
I've got two hats that I wear. One is my music, which is my love, and I've done it all my life. I'm a musician, basically, and I'm back to composing music, using the means that are available now, which is digital. Rather wonderful. Gives us the best of all possible worlds. I can play real instruments. I can record them. I can also use sampled sounds or anything I want, really. Bang a saucepan with a wooden spoon or catch the birds in the trees or the owls at night. The hooting is a hoot, as they say. My other hat is as a speaker manager. This comes from my being in the music business for many, many years and having a manager and then going on to being a producer rather than a performer. The guy who sat in the studio coaxing the best performances out of the musicians and noting what managers did for the musicians they were managing. So now I find that within the speaking profession, it's much the same job. You have an artist who's on stage and you want two things for them. One, for them to be amazingly good and great. And the other thing you want is to promote them like crazy. So I've always loved marketing. It's a strange combination. I know most musicians aren't interested in marketing or very good at marketing, but I've always loved both. So that kind of explains the two hats that I'm currently wearing.
And what threads them both for me is that you've mentioned the love for what you're doing in both those areas.
Yeah. I think I've been incredibly lucky or fortunate, whatever words you want to use, to just be able to do what I wanted to do with my life. I had supportive parents and music was around me from as far back as I can remember. I was going to say day one, it probably was. I think my mum used to sing to me when I was tiny, very, very tiny person. And so when you have supportive parents, you can follow your dreams. And I think that's the greatest gift you can give to any child you bring into the world, is just to support them, let them make their own mistakes, and they will thank you for it in the end.
It's a tough job to sit back and let your children make mistakes.
Not to me. I was allowed to do it and cocked up a few times. I have two daughters who I think if you were to ask them, they'd say, yeah, Dad wasn't very interested really, just let us get on with our, what we wanted to do. And of course, it's not true that I wasn't interested. I was extremely interested, but I would always just give them a free hand and I wouldn't get involved unless they asked for my help. So whatever they wanted to do, they could do it. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this in public, but I'm going to. I was just clearing out a drawer the other day and I saw all the bills from the dancing school. And I thought, bloody hell, that cost us an awful lot of money. to send our daughters to pursue their love and the thing that they were passionate about. But we've never looked back. And today our relationships are just fantastic. And we still work together musically. So, yeah, that's my view.
And when something is of that much value to someone, the amount that it costs becomes immaterial.
It does if you can afford it. I think we were fortunate because my first daughter got a grant, and I seem to remember most of the cost of the further education was paid for by that grant. Yeah, and I feel passionately, although I would hate to think that I'm a political animal at all, although I have my views, obviously. I hate to think of talented children or children who want to pursue the arts and their parents can't afford to give them the support that they would benefit from. I was going to say the support they need, but no one necessarily needs that formal education. What they need is encouragement and, the permission to go out there and to do it, and maybe be supported by living at home, or, parents may be able to pay for a small flat or wherever they need to pursue that interest, that love.
And there's always a contentious conversation around the arts being poorly paid. And so a lot of people don't go into it because it's not aspirational from that perspective. What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, very, very mixed thoughts. I only have my own perspective, although I've listened to many other people. So my own perspective was that I was still living at home when I left school, was able just to pursue my interest, which then was to become a rock star or a pop star, whatever you want to call it. So I was trained classically, but I went into the music business, which of course is popular music, and was able very quickly, I think, because I was living at home, to get a band together and go and get some gigs. And I was all very, as I say, I was very marketing focused. So I think I'm a terrible salesperson. Face to face, I'm awful. But marketing, sticking up posters and in pubs, and when I had a recording studio, sticking up posters in music shops to say, come and record at my studio, that was always second nature to me. So I was very fortunate that I had some commercial understanding of what you need to do to maintain a career in this particular sphere. Whereas most musicians that I talk to, it's the music first and maybe the music last, and they don't really have the extra skills that I know I was blessed with, and I'll be forever grateful. I don't know where it came from, but I did have that marketing leaning, if you like, towards the fact that A, you needed to do it, and B, I had an idea of how you could do it, how we could promote ourselves. So the money was never a thought in my mind. I was just so driven to pursue what I wanted to pursue that actually the money kind of found a way of coming my way. We were paid for gigs. I got a publishing deal. I mean, we had recording deals, but I had a publishing deal as a songwriter very early on. And the advance, and this is a long time ago, the advance I got from the publishing company was £3,000, which was way more than a lot of people were earning in a year back then, in the 1800s. And so I have been incredibly lucky. So I'm very grateful.
So you're talking about encouragement, permission, support, gratitude, and luck. How do you really feel that purpose fits into this area as well?
Again, I think my view might be a bit unique, or not commonplace anyway. I feel that my purpose was something I didn't have to think about. I just knew what I wanted and I went out and got it. So my purpose was, why did I do it? Because I had to do it. And I think when you've got something that's that deeply inside you, as a beautiful South African choir mistress once said to me, when it's in your heart, you have to do it. And I think that sums it up for me. If it's truly in your heart, you'll find a way. because you can't not be true to yourself. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but what that really means is if you've got something inside you that's eating you up, that you want to do it, you should at least give it a try. I mean, you might not have any talent, and luckily I've had some talent enough to sort of keep me going. I was never going to be a great instrumentalist or a great anything, but I was very competent, and I had a certain creative leaning, a certain creative ability to think outside the box, as they say. And again, another cliche, which I don't particularly like. So for me, the why is just, well, because I had to do it. And I think anyone who's out there who's listening, if they've got any of that inside them, just go with that particular feeling and that particular why, because you have to do it. If you've got to do it, you've got to do it. You can't deny yourself that opportunity. And I know that you will have spoken to many people who, pondered their why for ages and, weren't sure, or should I, shouldn't I, and all that. That was never me. I was very lucky in that respect.
And do you think that's because music comes from the heart, that was then an easy decision, that you didn't even have to second guess it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was surrounded by music at home. My elder brother, about 8 years older than me, I think, was already playing the piano in the house from a very young age for me. And I can remember some of my earliest memories of music impacting me was, my mum would put me to bed. I must have been, 3, 4 years of age. And I would say, leave the door open because I want to hear Nigel playing the piano. And he used to play the piano downstairs. And I mean, you can imagine, well, I hope you and the listeners can imagine what that's like. You just hear that and you think, oh, I'd like to be like my big brother, he's ever so good. And, you've got the Cannon Masons now, which is a family of musical children. And that's exactly the kind of environment I was in. There was only really him who was good. My dad and my other brother also played piano a bit, and my other brother played violin, but not to the Cannon Masons, level of quality. But yeah, it was there. I think my mum did sing, pop songs off the radio and stuff like that a little bit, although she wouldn't class herself as a musician. So of course, yeah, again, the word luck has to come into the conversation. I might have been born into a family that had none of that.
And you mentioned the family, the Cannon Masons, and I think I don't know which one it was, but one of them played at, was it a wedding that I'm trying to think of?
The royal wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So clearly music as part of growing up has been instrumental, pardon the pun, but in terms of following your heart, following your dream, following your purpose, did anybody ever explain to you what purpose was, or is this something you figured out yourself?
No one explained what purpose was. No, I didn't even figure it out. I still haven't really. My wife would tell you that I live in the moment. So I just live from day to day, and that has its benefits and its drawbacks. So my purpose is defined and decided when I wake up each day. What am I going to do today? What do I need to do? What do I want to do? And yeah, of course, there has to be a combination of I need to do that and I don't particularly want to. And that might be the washing up, or it might be a job for somebody that somebody's going to pay you for. But I think I managed pretty well to keep those in balance, to make sure that I do get enough of what I need, which is generally musical.
So if music be the food of love, then
Yes.
play on.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because music has spanned centuries. It has been there for forever. For as long as somebody has been able to make sound, music has been there. Why is it able to transcend across generations, across different cultures? What makes music so special for you?
Two different questions there. I don't know why it spans. I understand it was there before speech, before language. In fact, song, I believe, goes pre-language. So it must have been something which humans just responded to, whether it was a call across the valley to say, "Oi, John, I'm over here. You know, we've got a bowl of soup for you. Come across and join us for a meal." To nowadays, it is so sophisticated, and we understand the science of sound so well that creating emotion in the listener, if you're on my side of the fence, if you're on the creative side, is not a difficult skill to learn. You know, there are tricks of the trade in music, just like there are in most things. So, and I've read quite a lot of the psychology of sound and the creating of emotion, and it isn't just music. I mean, acoustics comes into it as well. For example, there's the famous concert hall in Vienna, the Musikverein, where they broadcast the New Year's Day concert from every year, has a unique acoustic, which they have measured. Scientists have measured the emotional response of the audience in that space with one particular piece of music played versus the same piece of music played in, say, the Albert Hall with that audience. And they've noticed a rise, an increase in the emotional experience of the audience in the Musikverein than there are in other concert halls. So this ability, well, not ability, because it's forced upon us, isn't it? We do respond. We're not trained in how to respond to music, but we just respond to sound in this particular way. And I think nobody really has got to the bottom of, well, how does that really work? There are plenty of people studying it and plenty of psychologists studying the psychological aspects of why sound impacts us so greatly. But I think it remains a little bit of a mystery still to this day. And I kind of like that. We know what works, what doesn't work. You know, a pneumatic drill outside your bedroom window will tend to wake you up. And the bird song that they pipe into, is it Terminal 5 at Heathrow now? Because a friend of mine was the sound designer who put that into the airport. We know that bird song slows people down. They actually start walking more slowly through that part of the airport because our emotions are affected and therefore our behaviors are affected as a result. So no, I think it's still a bit of a mystery. But what does it mean to me? It means everything. It means that I can produce music, I can listen to music and absolutely raise the quality of my life through that.
It's really interesting. You're talking about birdsong there. And for me, birdsong is fascinating, how you can have a really well insulated room and yet birdsong will still penetrate through that. It's just incredible.
Well, that's very interesting. You obviously haven't got a very well insulated room.
Well, what I mean is, like, you can have triple glazed windows, and yet the birdsong will still come in. I mean, I'm not talking about a soundproof studio. I'm talking about just a normal housing, and birdsong still it has that ability to come through, which is fantastic because you want to hear the birdsong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was a bit worried when we started this conversation because it's quite windy out there today, and that comes in as well. So all of nature does come in. And I mean, opening the window on a cold winter's day is what I would tend to do because for me, it's all about atmosphere. I'm not sure how many humans really take a positive step towards enjoying different atmospheres of weather and, you know, surroundings. But to me, environment is everything. Environment, whether it's, you know, a room full of people or you're having dinner with, or you're outside in the nature. But environment, to me, has a huge impact on my life. If I'm in a bad environment, I just want to get out. And if I'm in a great environment, I become a different person, I feel. And then within that environment, you might have music, you might have horrible sounds, you might have nice sounds, whatever. But I think surroundings are the key. And that's why some of these concert halls, and I used to sing in Canterbury Cathedral, which I go to still to this day very regularly. That environment is just amazing. You step inside a building like that, if you're sensitive to it, and your mind is just in a different place. And it's very calming and it's very peaceful. And I'm one of these doubting Thomases that thinks, why do you need to learn to meditate? Why do you need to learn this stuff? If you open your heart, your mind, your ears to the things that are around you, you can find places that take you on spiritual or emotional journeys. And I totally believe that can lower your blood pressure. It can rejuvenate the cells in your body, make you a healthier person. You don't really need a teacher to teach you that, in my humble opinion. And I'm not putting down meditation, all the wonderful yoga people out there. But for me, that was always I don't need that. I'll just go outside. I'll look at a flower, or I'll go to the cathedral, I'll hear the choir sing. Is this making sense, or am I sounding completely bonkers?
No, it references back to you saying you live in the moment, and to be able to appreciate the smaller things in life and what is around you in your natural environment. That's the key, isn't it? That's what you've been able to do and encouraged to do, supported to do since you were young. And being in the moment with music, I mean, music is something that brings people together. It's fabulous in that sense that it is a way that you can connect people where words may fail. Music, as I said, it does transcend generations and centuries, but also, different cultures, and it does bring people together. It's such an incredible medium. It really is. And seeing my children use music in a different way to how I use music in my life, it's really interesting. It's a go-to for my son, particularly. He needs to have music on pretty much 24/7. I mean, he would have it on in his head when he's in the classroom if he could.
Yeah, no, exactly what you mean. Of course. It really does bring people together, and because I'm composing music now, I'm kind of admitting in public that my speaking or my writing, my use of language, is never going to reach people like my music will. I suppose I'm a reasonable communicator, but I don't think I'm very good, really, in terms of what we're doing now. I hope some people like it. Maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't. But actually, to be able to not use words but still communicate. So I'm not sure about songs. I used to be a songwriter, but was never very good at that. But composing music instrumentally when there's no words, and for somebody to turn around and say, "Oh my God, that took me to a place I've never been to before," is just incredible. And all those people might be listening individually, but it brings them to me, so it brings us together. And of course, if I was doing it live, you've got an audience that you connect with, so that's a wonderful thing. But I think that the thing I'd like to add to that, and thanks for bringing this up about what music does in terms of people, it most importantly, it brings you to yourself. Most listening experiences are individual. We put headphones on, we listen to a piece of music. I mean, I've still got an amazing hi-fi system, and most of the music I put on is put on for me to listen to as an individual person. And what it does for me, and I would hope for others as well, is it brings me inside myself through that music. And I believe that I have a better understanding of who I am because music has connected me with me. Does that make any sense?
It really does. And I'm just wanting to connect what you've just said with, why do we get goosebumps when we hear certain types of music?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Well, the pragmatic me would say, well, there are tricks of the trade. The scientist in me would say, okay, I know I can write a piece of music, I can write a chord structure that will send goosebumps for my wife. It'll create that feeling for her because I know the chords, the structures of music is frequencies in various volumes and in certain waveforms. and she will consistently respond in that way to a certain sound of a chord, or it doesn't have to be a word. I mean, if there's a lyric as well, that might improve or not the effect. And I think for each of us, it's completely subjective. That's the other thing I want to say, that no two people appreciate the same music in the same way. And for many of us, there's whole tranches or whole genres of music that one person will absolutely love and another person will absolutely hate. So the wiring is completely unique. And why do we get goosebumps? I think because we want to get goosebumps. We actually, it's this thing of, why do we play sad music? Why do we play music that actually isn't, happy birthday? It's kind of morose or miserable music, but we play it because it connects with a part of us or some emotion within us that we want to feel, and it may make us cry or give us goosebumps or may make us hold our breath. But it's really important, isn't it, for human beings to have a range of emotions that they experience on a daily basis? Because if you only ever experience, happiness, you never experience sadness, you probably can't maintain much of that. But it's the ups and downs of life which give you perspective. So you'll only know you're really happy if you've been really sad, because you won't know what one is compared to the other. Comparisons is also what music's really good at. It's the very quietest sound to the very loudest sound. It's the, raucous rock guitar compared with the sweet violin. We like a variety, and I think that's to do with how, if our emotions are stimulated in very, very different ways throughout every day or throughout every week, we kind of feel more grounded. We feel more secure as a human being. Because think, oh yeah, I had a terrible day today, but I'm going to watch the telly tonight. I'm going to watch the program. It's going to make me laugh, or I'm going to listen to music. It's good for us. It's really good for us. So I think goosebumps are great. I think people who cry at music, it's just what they needed, and they feel better afterwards. Does that make sense?
Oh, it really does. And as part of what I do after several episodes, QJ, I do my reflections and actions, and I'm already thinking now that I need to go and do some research on the connection between music and the limbic system, and that, which is where the emotions and your why comes from. So that connection, there must be something stronger. So I'm going to go and do some research at another point in this area, because it is a fascinating topic. And
yes,
you've really highlighted for me how important or how key music is to us, and how it has been, as you said, even before we were able to articulate what we were feeling, music would bridge that for us. And what I love is you say that your approach is unique, yet, actually there are so many people. In fact, I would say almost everyone has this connection with music, but yours is to a heightened level that you've experienced. And it is very personal. It is an incredible way of connecting. And let's talk about that a bit more, about where you said it brings you to yourself, and it really helps you to work out what it is that you really want or need, as you were saying earlier. What would you say would counter that? What takes you out of yourself?
I don't know. I think music does both. It can be used. This is the point, isn't it? It's that old question: is music useful, or is it just a frippery? Is it something which we just enjoy? I think taking me out of myself is where it becomes very useful. It's useful if I'm, not feeling very energetic, and I want to put something with a heavy beat on, or it's a good, an anthem, it's anthemic, something like that. Then it can actually cheer me up, get me out of myself, and think, oh, my thinking is, I'm thinking miserable or grumpy today. and music can take me out of myself in that way. I don't think there's any magic formula, and I don't think this is what we're talking about now is terribly profound either. I think it's just a thing that I think it's just a thing. That might be an excuse for me not answering the question very well. I don't know.
Well,
But,
let's look at it from this way. Does music affect your emotion, or does your emotion affect the choice of your music?
No, music affects the emotion for me. So I can, if I need to change my emotion, I can always do it by choosing some music that I'm familiar with, and I do often do that. I will go downstairs to my hi-fi and I'll think, what mood do I want to be in? And I'll choose music specifically to achieve that aim. Do I want to be calmed down? And often my wife in the evening will say, I'll say, do you mind if I have some music on? She said, no. I said, what do you fancy? And 9 times out of 10, she'll say something soft and calming. And I think we know that the science behind that in going to bed. So if it's late in the evening and you put something calming on, you're more likely to sleep better. And again, it's why I'm kind of dubious about all these apps that supposedly calm you down and all of that. Just pick the right kind of music, put it on, close your eyes, listen, go up to bed, and you just carry the mood up to bed with you and you fall asleep. I'm incredibly sensitive, obviously. As I'm speaking, I'm thinking, well, not everyone's that sensitive to these things, but if you have that sensitivity, I know that you can use music to help with those kind of, there might be challenges in your life, even getting to sleep.
But do you think that you've programmed yourself now to connect music to your brain programming so that you now know that this will help you to do what you need to do?
Undoubtedly, yeah. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I was just wondering also where you were saying music affects emotion. What about movement of the body with that?
Oh, you're talking to the wrong person. I don't dance. I don't move.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's not.
No,
Yeah.
I don't have any of that in me at all. I used to be in clubs and, hear disco music or whatever, dance music. And I mean, that's EDM, isn't it? It's electronic dance music, which is very different. And, I've even created some of that myself. But I can sit in a chair or hold a little bongo or something and play along with something like that. And then I engage my body, my movement with that. But I'm not a dancer. I don't get up and move my whole body ever. I feel it in my body, but I don't express it outwardly. I don't know if there's some analyst out there that wants to analyze that, what that means.
Yeah, please do, because that's fascinating. My goodness. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not a big dancer, but I do feel better for having moved and for having moved all of the body around. It takes a while to get that kind of embodiment to get going. And sometimes, a glass of something would definitely help that movement to occur. But it's really interesting at how you can still feel all of the benefits whilst being quite static.
Yes.
From an outward expression. It is fascinating, QJ. Honestly, I think that where music serves each and every one of us in a different way is incredible. It really is.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. It's certainly my belief. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, what's next? What's coming up? I know you're day to day, but have you got any ideas of what it is you'd like to achieve going forward?
Not especially. I want to be engaged in my music, which will continue. It would be lovely if I ever were able to achieve what I wanted to achieve as a child, and that was to write a theme tune, TV, film. As you know, TV themes are usually about 60 seconds long. I knew the guy who wrote the EastEnders theme, Simon May. We were signed to the same publishers, actually. So I know what it's like if you're lucky enough to have written a TV theme and get the royalties every day from it. But no, I used to like John Barry, the famous Bond film theme composer who died not so long ago. He was my aspiration, if you like. I wanted to be John Barry, write Bond movie themes and the Ipcress File and lots of those spy type movies. So lots of my music is kind of in that vein now. And I network on LinkedIn and places like that. And there's a lot of music professional groups there and publishing groups. And I have met a couple of people already who are kind of in that field. So that's really my only ambition. It would be nice if one of my pieces, or I got approached to write a piece that could be used on a Netflix series or a, HBO or whatever it is. And I do think in those terms. I've never been fazed by, famous people, or I'm never starstruck. They're all people, Yeah, you run a big company, so what? I got Nigel Kennedy to come and play with my orchestra because I asked him, why don't you? That's the kind of person I am. If you want something, just ask for it. The worst thing that can happen, they'll turn you down. So yeah, Netflix theme would be great. And there are loads of composers like me. Well, no one's like me, I know, but loads of composers who are doing things like I'm doing in Facebook groups and that, and they're all trying to write film themes. So the likelihood is very, very slim, but doesn't stop me wanting to do it. Apart from that, no, it's just every day as it comes, keep the music going. I will be starting to get some of my old instrumentalist friends to play some of my music, and I'll be recording it. And there is a kind of in the back of my mind that it may turn into a live band, a live show at some point, maybe. But I'm not fixated on anything like that. That was a bit of a waffle, wasn't it?
No, it's great. And I feel as though we've talked a lot about the music side of things and less about the speaker manager hat that you also wear. Is that probably a fair representation of where you are with those two hats?
I love being a speaker manager because I'm not performing myself or putting any music performances on a stage in a live venue. It keeps me in touch with that whole area of interest, which is the performer on stage, the audience. What is the relationship? What are they doing on stage that will make that audience like them or like them more? Why are they coming to see that person speak or sing or dance, whatever it is? I love marketing, so you can add that into the mix. And then the third part of it is the negotiation, actually keeping, the thought that I can be part of that, making more money for the speaker. It's as simple as that. I very rarely negotiate like we're speaking to people. It's usually via email, which is an interesting dynamic. And a lot of people don't do that because they like people and they like communicating face to face or, mouth to ear. But it works really well. I'm very strategic in my work. So the speaker manager bit is very enjoyable. And the end result, of course, is that the performer gets on stage, does a great performance for the audience loves them, and the speaker gets paid, and so do I. So that's great.
It's a win-win-win.
It is, absolutely.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
QJ, it's been so fascinating talking with you, and I am definitely going to be looking at how music really does tap into purpose in more depth for my reflections episode. So thank you for instigating that area of thought for me. How would people get in contact with you?
Well, QJ Composer is a .com website, QJ Composer. Probably find me on YouTube as well, because I think that's the name of my YouTube channel. Not very much on there at the moment. I'm kind of holding back. Being a marketing pain in the ass, I just release things very slowly, one thing at a time. So there's one video on there of one piece, but I'm seeing how it works in relation to what we used to do, which is, you had a record release and you plugged it and tried to get a chart hit. So I'm using the same principle, one thing at a time. Actually, quite the opposite from you, because I think you're doing lots of podcasts. And I think I'm good at milking, and I like to milk things for all they're worth before I go on to the next one. So, I mean, I've still only got about 500 views for that, and only half a dozen comments for that particular piece on the video. But qjcomposer.com will probably find me.
Brilliant.
And I'm in all the usual places.
And you're also on LinkedIn. Is that a good way to connect?
LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter.
Perfect.
YouTube. I think YouTube is amazing. It's a really, really good resource that, Google own, and the search engine there is great as well. So
brilliant. Okay. I'll make sure all of those go in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your time today. It's been a fascinating conversation. Have you got some final words for the listener, please?
Yeah, the final words for the listener, and it came from a Jess Gillam, who does a My Classical Life on Radio 3 every Saturday. Listen if you can. She had a guest on there that said what I think, and I'd never heard anyone say before. And he said, don't just listen to the music you like. So go out there, find some music you've never heard before, and if you don't like it, keep listening. Because the other thing about music is you can learn to like music which you thought you hated. Now, there's an interesting psychological exercise for you, Amy. Find out how that works.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What value have you received from tuning in? What are your reflections with actions? Please take a moment to leave me an Apple Podcast or Spotify review sharing how Focus on Why has made a difference to you today. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. To keep it going, simply connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, or join the Focus on Why Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.